What's shaking? Y'all know I'm baking. Calzax is back on the mic once again. This is Caleb, a part of the Calzax family, guys. Today we are bringing you an Escape from Tarkov squad tactics guide, guys. Now this is one I've actually been very excited to put out, guys. I've been working on a script for this for quite some time, guys, putting it together, learning the best that I can. I really haven't found a guide quite like this out on YouTube, guys, so I think this is pretty unique, and I really hope that this guide will help you in those team sort of situations when you've got your squad ready to go and you're looking for success, guys. This is the place to start. Now, before we get started fully, I'd just like to say we stream on twitch.tv/CalzaxTV. We stream Escape from Tarkov as well as other games, and we would love to have you there, guys. Come by, say hello, just hang out with us, guys. We'd love to have you. Also, we have a Discord. Link is in the description below. There's a huge community there that's really growing. A lot of Escape from Tarkov players as well as other games. We have a bunch of different channels set up, so if you need somebody to shoot the shit with or play with, we would love to have you. And lastly, if this video helps you out or if you simply enjoy your viewing experience, please make sure to drop a like, drop a sub for more videos like this one. We got a ton of Escape from Tarkov guides and plenty planned as well, guys. We're out here putting our grind in. We really need y'all's support. Drop that like, drop that sub. It's going to help us so much, and we really appreciate it, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, guys, there is a variety of different topics we're going to be touching on today, but I want to mention to start out, we are going to be talking about three main sections. We're going to be talking about two of the most important parts of squad play, and that is comms, communications, and your positioning. Those are two of the most important parts of team play that will ultimately lead to your success if you can get them nailed down right, guys. So we'll hop into those, and then at the end we'll go over just some general tips I have, and we'll get you guys off the ground running. What we're going to talk about today as well, this is going to apply to duos, this is going to apply to trios, quads, 5-mans, doesn't really matter. All of these things are really important. Of course, how you actually execute does matter. It does depend on how many you've got in your squad, so you will need to adjust this to how many you have, but all of these apply no matter how many you have. Let's go ahead and get started with a comms, guys. Alright, touching on communications. You must be smart about comms to be successful playing as a team in Escape from Tarkov. So comms are one of the most important parts of team play, as I've said. It takes quite some time to master this, I promise you. It is not easy to be a professional communicator, guys. It's difficult. It takes practice, so make sure to get that practice. Don't worry if you don't know what to say. Just really take in what I'm about to say, and remember that each raid you can get better and better at this, guys. Okay, firstly, we will talk about the speaking part of things, but I want to touch on the fact that you need to be certain you are an active listener, guys. The listening is just as important as your callouts and your speaking. If you're not listening to what your teammates are telling you, you might as well not have your headset on. You might as well just block them out or anything, because if you're not listening to the information that they're telling you, if you're stuck looting, something like that, make sure, if you miss it, make sure to ask them, like, hey, what'd you say? Something like that. Just real quick, but make sure you're trying to listen as much as possible, because they should be calling out what they're doing, things like that, as we'll touch on in just a moment. But if you're not listening, you're already breaking down the comms. So make sure you are an active listener, guys. Alright, next up we'll dive into what you should be saying, things like that, rather than just the listening. But again, the listening is just as important. But let's say, rather than constantly trying to ask everyone where they're at, what they're doing, things like that, go ahead and tell your team to call out what they are doing as they are doing it, guys. It is up to you and your teammates to listen to these callouts and make your own callouts. It is up to you to remember to do this and to listen to your teammates. If you can pull this system off, you will be much less confused about teammates' actions and their whereabouts, and your comms will be clear more often for you to listen to the in-game sounds, because the solo players, I promise you, are listening to those. So you want to maximize your ability to listen in-game as much as possible while still being able to communicate with your team. So again, tell your team to call out what they're doing as they're doing it. Hey guys, I'm entering the building. I'm entering third story dorms right now, guys. I'm taking a right. I'm going up to the second story. I'm going to check this bag on the right, things like that. Rather than just walking into the third story dorms as I described and not saying anything, and your team is like, what? Hey Jerry, what are you doing? Where are you at? What's going on? That takes time to say. And then you got to tell them, hey, I walked into third story dorms. I went up to the second story. I'm checking a bag. When you could have just said that from the beginning. There was no need for them to ask you that. I know you want to tell your buddies about that crazy raid you had, or how you slept with their mother, or whatever crazy bullshit you might have to say, guys. But there is a time and a place for this. Again, solo players are using audio as their guide. You cannot do this if there's constant comms going. Say only what you need to. Say as much as you need to. When infiltrating an uncleared area especially, guys, this is very important. Clear the comms. Clear the comms. Say only what you need. Make your callouts. Infiltrating a new area. Guys, I'm heading down the right side. I'm getting behind cover. Not, well, I had McDonald's earlier today, and, well, what do you think about the Big Mac over there? You guys like it? Things like that? That's not what you need to be talking about in those cases. That's bulking up your comms. You can't hear the in-game sounds like that. If I can find a good guide, I'm going to go ahead and list one in the description of a military comms guide, because honestly, if you can get as close to that as possible using those sort of military terms, copy, things like that, it shortens the amount of talking on the comms, and it's a pretty good way to go. So overall with comms, be an active listener, but try to be very descriptive yet concise when you speak. Let's talk about another example. If you see an enemy, especially at close range, guys, give a short but descriptive call out. Not something like, oh, I see a dude over there by that thing, off in that direction. Oh, over in that area, And then your team's like, what are you talking about? They have to ask you, where is this guy? And then you've got to take the time to answer their question. All this time, you can't hear in the game. So instead of saying something like that, rather try something like guy close in ADIC on my 12. Clear comms and listen to the game after that. If the teammates have any other questions, they could ask, but you have given them a very descriptive location where the guy is. They know that he's close. They know which direction he's in. And you've said much less than you would have in the other case, guys. So I challenge you to try to practice comms. It is an art. There is something to be said about someone who can see where an enemy's at and give a very descriptive answer. I know if he's by that rock and by that tree, it can be hard to give a description, but you guys can try your best. Sometimes there are POIs like dome, for example, in shoreline. You can often use the dome in reserve as well to kind of give a direction of where the enemy might be at. Things like that. Just try your best. It's almost like it's like being a novel writer or something. It takes time. At the beginning, your callouts might not be as good. You don't know the callouts to places in the game. You don't know how to be descriptive with your comms, but if you keep working at it and do what I've described before this, everything that I've said about comms, you will get better at it, guys. And your teammates will thank you for it. Alright, that sums up what I have to say about comms for now, guys. But let's go ahead and start talking about the next most important thing, and that is you must be smart about your positioning. Comms and positioning. Now, positioning is definitely something that takes team chemistry to master. This is a very difficult thing to get nailed down right. And it's very hard to control this as a single person. Okay, so if you're watching this video, and even if you do everything I'm describing perfectly, you have a great comms, you have great positioning and everything, you're not technically in control of what your teammates are doing. So they may have horrible positioning, horrible comms, and you're really not in control anymore. Now, I encourage you to send them this video, spread this video around your team so that they are all have the same understanding of what's expected of the team. Hopefully something like that would help. But again, it's very hard to control this as a single person, so I recommend you go ahead and try to nominate a squad leader of sorts. Whoever has the most knowledge in a certain map, things like that. If you know, hey, Billy likes to play reserve, he plays this a lot, he knows the spots, he knows the extracts, he knows the spawns, he knows where the good loot is, he knows how to move around the map, he knows good angles, put them as a squad leader. Tell them, hey, you're in charge of us, you tell us where you want us to be, and have them take control, okay? And as you play with the same team over and over, hopefully this is something that everyone will get better at. Team chemistry is just so important. If you're playing with new people all the time, it's going to be very difficult to nail down this team chemistry. And it's totally fine. Play with all your friends and everything, but just understand that there's a difference between a 5-man that's never played together before and a 5-man that runs every raid together, having, they execute plays, they know the map, they have experience. It's two different things, and it takes time, guys. So in a minute here, we're going to talk about some very specific formations I recommend you guys try running. All right, but let me make an important point about positioning that will apply to everything we talk about. Do not block your teammates. Your body is a physical in-game object. If you're standing in the way of a teammate, they cannot run through you. I have died countless times to a teammate blocking a doorway or cover from where I need to get away. Give them space to maneuver. If they need to dip away from a fight and retreat, fill in as the next man in line, but with room to spare. Again, we'll talk more about the specific formations in just a second, but let's say you are the second in line and you're infiltrating a specific doorway. You have a guy in front of you that's trying to check the doorway, clear it, make sure no one's there. Okay, so they peek out. They put their body out to check this doorway, okay? Maybe they need to check the sides of the doorway, all right? But there's not really a better way for you to get another angle at that time or something like that. If you can get another angle, you definitely should. But if you guys need to go through that doorway, don't be standing right behind the person who's peeking. If they see somebody and are able to shoot and don't get one tapped, they probably need to get back behind cover to say, hey, there's a guy there. But if you're standing right behind them, you're trying to back them up in that idea, but actually you're hindering them, because then they can't get back to cover, and they're just going to get shot to death right there, and you've got a teammate killed. It's something that you might not think about, but you need to give your teammates some space to maneuver. It's so important, guys. So again, as a team in general, it is best to stick together in formations. If someone is running away from the group, looting and scooting, they are liable to get into fights without backup, which defeats the point of team play, guys. That is why the formations are very, very important, and that you stay in your position in the formation. All right, and listen to your squad leader if you choose to nominate one. So in general, in your formations, try to stay in positions where a grenade could not kill both you and a teammate, or even more teammates than that, but where you're close enough to your teammates, probably within eyesight of each other, to where you can back them up quickly in the event of a fight. If a teammate gets engaged, you want to be able to get a new angle, rush over there, help them out. Let's say it's just one enemy they get engaged with. That's going to be a one-on-one until you or another teammate gets there to make it a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1, which is exactly what the point of team play is. You have the strength in numbers, but it's up to you to take advantage of that. Let's say they run into multiple enemies, then they are in a 2v1, 3v1 situation. That other team is executing how they're supposed to be, and you need to quickly make that a 2v2, 3v3 type of fight where it's more even, because your teammate's going to get smoked. So again, that's why it's important not for one person to just get ahead of the group and super far away, unless they really know what they're doing and you guys are cool with it and you can cover them, something like that. But if someone's rushing out ahead and trying to loot and scoot, they are liable to get in a fight and you can't back them up, then they might as well just be playing solo, because there's just no point to even having the team at that point. Okay, so let's talk about two specific scenarios which you will find yourself in very, 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 very often. I think these are the two most common scenarios you'll find yourself in, and two specific formations that work within these scenarios, guys. So let's talk about open areas first off. I'm talking about a tree coverage, like maybe some of the trees outside dorms on the hills, most of shoreline, how that looks. Just wide open areas where you still have cover. I never really think you should be trying to walk through a wide open area like suicide fields in shoreline or somewhere where there's just no cover, tree cover, soft cover, hard cover, anything. But we're just saying an open area, most likely trees like woods, things like that. The idea here is I think it is a really good idea. One good formation is to fan out to each other's sides. This could be in a direct horizontal line, or it could be in a sort of V formation, sort of like geese or something would fly in, where you still have kind of a point man. But whichever way you choose to do it, horizontal or a V, as you're moving through this open area in the same direction. This is a difficult formation to master as a team, but can be done very successfully with dedication, practice, and chemistry over time. Okay, So if you're spreading out, this helps reduce the chance that your entire team will be spotted at once, and reduce the chance that you all get wiped by a single spray or a grenade. If one teammate is engaged as your team is fanned out, let's say somewhere in the middle someone's engaged, that the enemy has seen one of your people. Maybe they see more, maybe they don't. But that one of your teammates gets engaged. The others in the your other teammates surrounding that person that got engaged can then begin to pinch from their positions to help out. Some even causing flanks, things like that. They will have angles on the enemy that the enemy might not have been expecting. Now, sometimes the enemy will see multiple of your players, things like that, but it's very, very difficult to deal with multiple people shooting at you at one time. And that's essentially what you're shooting for, multiple people, multiple of your teammates shooting at enemies. A single enemy, hopefully. If there's multiple, you just better hope you have at least that many or more. That is the idea, that is the hope. But as many as your team as possible shooting at the enemy. Alright, let's talk about the next scenario, guys. When moving through tighter corridors and indoors areas, I'm talking through most of like the interchange areas, maybe in dorms even, maybe in resort, things like that. You don't have the space to fan out like this, guys. So we need to talk about a new formation in situations like this. And again, I think those are going to be two of your most common scenarios: open areas and enclosed, tighter corridors and indoor areas. I think a good strategy in these sorts of situations is to form a straight line, sort of like a train. Everyone in this train needs to keep some distance between each other and keep their positions in line. So do not cut ahead of other teammates in the line if you can avoid it. Everybody should settle into their position in the line, whatever that might be, in the front, in the middle somewhere, or in the back. Do not try to cut ahead of your teammates, because if they're trying to clear an area or something like that, you might be pushing out into danger. But let's go ahead and talk about the specific positions you would have in this formation. So starting out at the front of the train, we have the point man. The point leads the group and is looking in the forward direction at all times. He's ready to engage at a moment's notice, as it is likely he will be the first person the enemies see. So this is the man that is leading the group, guys. He is not the person to be overtaking. As I said, if you're going to overtake people in your line, it better not be the point man, because the point man is the front point of contact for enemy engagements. Do not block behind the point man, guys. I know I said this before, but I'm going to reiterate, especially in this line formation, you need to give them space to maneuver. Since they are in the front, there might be a time where they push out a little further than they meant to, and they're not dead yet, and they need to get backwards. They need to retreat behind some cover. Maybe you're already behind that cover, but if you keep advancing on them, you're going to block their entry, guys. And not to say that you shouldn't fill in for them. You should fill in for them. Let's say the point man gets engaged, he starts taking shots, he gets some shots out, but he needs to reload, he's hurt, something like that. Let the point man retreat and fill in for the point man. If it's like a doorway, as we were talking about before, let the point man retreat. Don't block their exit. Then you can fill in, guys. Give them the space they need. All right, behind the point man are our middlemen. Middlemen are anyone behind the point except for the last man. So again, anybody just in the middle of this train. These guys are primarily watching the sides of the train. Again, the point man is going to be watching forward, the front. These middlemen need to be looking to the whole sides of the train. Some guys training to the left, some guys training to the right. If you're a trio or a duo, this person may need to be looking in more directions at once. The sides, the back, things like that. If you're a trio, this person would need to be looking left to right, things like that. If you are bigger than that, you can have designated sides for certain people. And any middlemen that are close to the point man or the flank, if they get into a fight, will back them up in the event there's a fight in the front. And again, same goes for behind. So you guys are there to watch the sides and back up the point in the flank. Let's talk about the flank. The flank is in the back, trailing the group, just essentially making sure the team doesn't get flanked. So the flank needs to be watching backwards almost exclusively. The middlemen also should just try to be sure the flank doesn't lose track of the train, because you will be, moving backwards for a lot of it. So flank, you might have to check behind you periodically to see where your train's going. But again, you are just trying to be sure that no one is trailing you guys, no one's sneaking and following you, or just ends up coming from behind. Because if you don't have someone watching your back, they could annihilate the train very easily. Because of the fact that you guys are standing sort of parallel, each person is in a straight line for the most part. They might be able to cut you down very easily if you get flanked. So the flank is looking out for that, guys. So just to conclude with positioning, guys, positioning can absolutely make or break you. If you do not have good positioning, you will not be able to back up your teammates. You will get into one-on-one fights, and you will lack team chemistry. If you have good formations, good positioning, you will find yourself getting into fights where you have the numbers advantage. You're getting the first sight on enemies, and they are having a difficult time picking off your squad. So let's go ahead and dive into just the last, just some other general tips for successful team play that I have that are slightly unrelated to comms and positioning. The first one I have is get an understanding of what your teammates look like, what guns they're using, or what backpacks they have, either in the lobby or right at the beginning of the raid, so you can identify your teammates. Nothing is worse than running into enemy combatants, thinking they're friendlies and being gunned down, or the opposite side of the coin, killing teammates thinking they are an enemy. It is up to you to be able to identify enemies and friendlies, and ideally, without having to, ask for a wiggle check, crouch check. And I mean, it's tough when you have your teammates constantly seeing you move, and as long as you're calling it out, as long as you have good comms and you're saying what you're doing, and then you have teammates looking at you, oh hey, is that you? Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. It's not easy to be doing that all the time, or crouch, or stop moving. Things like that. If they can work on their ability to identify their teammates, that won't need to be something that you have to do. In a team with good chemistry, you should never have to ask for a wiggle check. Now, again, there are going to be times where it's going to be confusing. Maybe there's just some chaos. You get into a fight, somebody has to flank around, and you're unsure. Again, but if you can identify your teammates, that person should be able to tell you, that's me, and you should be able to know. But try to reduce the amount of wiggle checks, things like that. So again, both of these things are going to happen to you where you run into an enemy combatant thinking they're friendlies and you die, and you kill your teammates thinking they're the enemy. Both of those things are going to happen to you. It happens to us all. It's a part of playing in a squad. It's the thing that just solo players don't have to deal with. But if you have effective comms, effective positioning, and a solid understanding of what your teammates look like and how their playstyle is, you can really reduce the chances of this happening. It's all about that team chemistry. And guys, the last big point I will make, please remember your entire advantage is strength in numbers. It is up to you and your team to take advantage of this. A good sign you and your team need to reevaluate is if you and your teammates often end up in one-on-one fights. As a team, it is your job to make sure that as many fights as possible, you have multiple guns on your enemies. Solo players want to take your team down in multiple one-on-one gunfights. Essentially, they want to pick off your team. They do not want to fight all of you at once. They do not want that. That is an issue for them, and they know it. So it is your job as a team to avoid this one-on-one picking off sort of scenario with smart comms and positioning and getting in fights in numbers, guys. Well, I think that sort of wraps up everything I've got to say for this guide. I really hope this video helps you guys out, helps you you and your team do better out there in escaping Tarkov. I think Tarkov is a lot of fun to play with groups and with friends, with teammates. And there's a lot of people that like to play solo because they just don't like to deal with the frustration of the things that I'm talking about. It is frustrating when a teammate kills you. It is frustrating when another player kills you because you thought they were a teammate. But if you can listen to the things I've described above, you will reduce the chance of this happening, and you can find yourself having a great time in squads and being very successful because you do have an advantage having numbers, guys. So I will leave you with that. Please drop a comment. Let me know what you guys usually play in. Is it usually solos, duos, trios, quads, 5-mans? What floats your boat? I'd really like to hear in the comments, guys. And I'll just remind you, we do stream on twitch.tv/CalzaxTV. We would absolutely love to have you there. Please drop in. It's a lot of fun. We do have a Discord. We would love to have you there as well. Big community, really growing. Link is in the description below. If this helped you out, please drop a like, drop a sub for videos more like this. We have tons of Escape from Tarkov guides and plenty planned. And as always, love your faces, and we will catch you in the next one, guys.